my sports and entertainment video. My name is Wood. I'm gonna jump right into it. Awesome job last night on the whole creative team. Brad Inglesby on, I guess in particular, but with the series finale of Mayor of Easttown. This one was only seven episodes, and I honestly don't think it was one bad one in the whole bunch. And my wife's silence or lack of criticism along the way probably confirms that for me. Usually, after an episode or two, definitely by the third episode, I'm hearing rumblings and grumblings from my wife, and she becomes impatient with stuff and is usually trying to get out of shows. But here, never heard a thing. So, great job by them. I totally enjoyed this show. Is it the greatest show ever? Best show of all time? I don't really have time to get into that. If you rocked with it and you liked it, great. But phenomenal job, man. This just goes to prove I'm a big fan of scale. Um, and scale can vary, but this just confirmed for me that you can take very regular, everyday situations and tell the story very well, execute it all very well, and it come out great. I was thinking earlier, with the right now with all of the superhero stuff that we have, just constantly, that's one of the biggest money makers in Hollywood. I don't always get all of those movies. Sometimes I feel like they set out to do something too big and they get lost along the way and they lose the magic in it by the end of it. But I think when you keep things to the right scale and you nail it, it's a big win. So this episode was called Sacrament. It's a lot of definitions to sacrament. The one that stuck out to most with me is a secret and a solemn oath or pledge. So one thing that we find in this show in episode 7 that we probably weren't aware of the entire way was that where we ended was like where we started. And everything that we needed to know was right when we first tuned into this show. Because Mayor showed up at I think in the opening scene, Mayor showed up to the elderly couple, Glenn and Betty. And that was a weird place to start this new show. But she went over there and we kind of get a sense that, this elderly couple, typical elderly people in a way. Like they don't do things the right. Like she told them, call the sheriffs for this stuff or call the police officers for this stuff. Don't call me. I'm a detective. I'm an investigator. These little house calls that you need, that's something different. But they continue to call her. And so what we learned last night was that this is the origin of this whole situation because Glenn, the man, his gun was used in the killing or the death of Aaron McMenamin. Another thing that we saw at the very beginning that we didn't know was what the show was all about was that when Mayor took the two brothers, the Ross brothers, to Kenny's house, those were the killers. It's crazy now that they had been up all night doing everything that they did to obstruct this and hide hide what happened. And that I want to go back and look at it now to see if there were some clues there, but I got stuff to do. But these two brothers are sitting here, like they didn't want to make eye contact with Kenny, and they didn't know how Kenny was going to react. Obviously, hearing that his daughter, his 17 or 18-year-old daughter, whatever, passed away, or was killed. Yeah, they were acting a little weird that morning, but it was obviously the message that they were over there to help deliver. That's understandable. But like I said, knowing what they had been doing the night prior, or just a couple of hours, 4 or 5 hours ago, in hiding Aaron's body, and then you think that they left her out there in the wilderness nude like that. And I think that was kind of the writing. They had to throw us off, but I don't think John really would have, or Billy. I don't think either one of them really would have left her out there like that, fully nude like that, and just added insult to injury and whatnot. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, all this stuff that we needed to know, we learned very early in the show. We just didn't know what we were looking at. Some other great themes about this show that I think is really apropos. It's really a story about redemption. It's that time heals everything. You know, things do get better with time. I think there's also, people have to learn how to accept help. They have to learn how to seek out help and to accept that help. There's also forgiveness, grace. And I think right now with where we are, if you just take a look, if you turn on your news today, it's a lot of angry people out here. It's a lot of people that feel like ignored or shut out, cast away. Everything is going on. People are going through shit. And often people want someone to pay for their frustration. We saw, I think they said what? As it's defined right now, like a mass shooting is like 4 more victims dying as a result of gun violence in one incident. And we've already had 200 in the last year and a half or whatever, we've had 230 mass shootings. Like what's driving all of that? So I just think it was great here to see these families, in particular MARE, deal with baggage that she had been carrying for several years, even going back, her son killed himself 2 or 3 years ago, I believe. And then her and Frank got divorced, years before that. And she was losing like life. She was losing days of her life being miserable and living in the past. And not even accepting that it was okay to move on and enjoy, not really enjoy, it might not be the best word, but to go on and experience the rest of your life and like value the rest of the time that you do have. Like you might have made some very grave mistakes, but that it doesn't end there, and if you still have, air going in and out of your lungs and blood coursing through your veins, like you got to go out here and make the most of these days. Drew is dependent on her. Siobhan was dependent on her. Her mother was dependent on her. And that was another interesting thing, was to show, a lot of us are probably going through this too, but a lot of the issues with MARE came from her mother, Helen. And they had that moment at the pizza place or whatever where, mom finally has the right moment to apologize to her daughter and putting certain things on her daughter. So these things get passed down, generationally and whatnot, and don't always get addressed. Some other stuff going on here, look how bright Dawn looked. We finally saw Dawn with life in her face. She had her hair out. I don't know if that was a wig or whatever, but whatever. But with her daughter returned to her, she was a more vibrant person. And she had went in for giving and thanked MARE last episode and whatnot. Dylan pops up. We thought he was a scumbag. Again, I think that was the writing. They were throwing us another twist with him and his buddy terrorizing Jessica. We still don't kind of understand why he would have went and burned the journals and kind of like totally erased the memory of Aaron altogether. And they kind of led us on a wild goose chase there. But maybe he grew up, over the last couple of months or whatever. He saw the error in his ways, went and gave the money to Lori for DJ's ear surgery, even though he knows that's not his son. Deacon Mark, we thought he was a scumbag. And he comes back, he returns to the lectern to lead mass or whatever. So there's a lot of interesting ideas or ideals that played out here. They don't always work out like that in life. They don't always work out this well in life, but I thought they did a damn good job of showing us kind of the struggle that things have to go through for there to be any type of correction or forgiveness or, go along to get along, whatever. What else did I say? One other thing that was really great by the producers and the writers is that they took the time, shout out to Craig Zobel, the director, they took the time and were so detailed and really meticulous to everything that they did. They kind of showed you hints of it or foreshadowed it earlier. Two things: the camera over at the elderly couple's house, when she deleted the one video of the kid behind them doing something, maybe spray painting Betty's breasts on the side of the shed. But they showed us that video, the capability or their home camera or whatever, surveillance camera. They showed us that a couple of times. At the end of the show, that's crucial. That's where she got confirmation that Ryan went in there and got that gun. The other thing that they showed us, one other thing that I won't go through all of them, but the other thing that they showed us was Ryan could be violent. And I don't even know, it wasn't like it was unprovoked violence. He just believed in, when you had smoke for Ryan went and took care of business. When the bully was making fun of his sister, he went and handled it. And so we weren't even looking at Ryan. He wasn't on any of our lists as a suspect, but he had been tuning in to different things and checking out what was going on with the in the room, or what the adults were saying or doing or what was happening. They showed him a couple of times looking over there and seeing what was going on. And then at the end of it, when we get the big reveal, we see him tuning in to what's going on with his dad. When he's on the phone, he goes and checks his cell phone. So all of that stuff was planted episodes ago. So I thought that was a really great job when things did go back. Even the giving us the background with the mistress, with John's mistress, Sandra Elliott. So I really thought that was excellent how they did that time and time again. And I really couldn't point at any moments in this thing and say they really dropped the ball, or sometimes writers and directors take advantage, like we can do what we want to do to make something happen. Or we didn't really set that up, but we're going to take this huge jump to tell the story the way that we want to tell it. They didn't really, like I said, they didn't really cut any corners in that area that I can think of. Maybe a couple. I'll get into those here in just a minute. But again, my next point, I just really appreciate the storytelling. I've mentioned it before that sometimes you can do a bunch of plot twists. Like I just watched Them on Amazon. They just kept doing new stuff and introducing new stuff. And it was like, where are we going with this? Why do you keep taking me through all of this stuff? And they just, every episode, 4 and 5 new big things came up, and it never really resulted in anything in a way. And I think here, all of the plot twists that they did, even when they get us to, because let's be honest, you're sitting here 15, 20 minutes in, we have John in the interrogation room giving us everything. We got 45, 50 minutes to go. Like, what the hell is going on here? And John's explanation of the night that Aaron was killed, the fact that he didn't know what gun was used, and the only real detail that he had was that he shot her in the face. And emotionally, he really wasn't emotional. His emotions weren't right to what he did. So it was great how they set that up. And of course, MARE picked up on this, and all of the details didn't jive with her. But yeah, I thought it was great how they got the story or the investigation, or MARE actually pointing towards Ryan. And I'm a little foggy on kind of the timeline with when exactly Lori knew. So I'm not even trying to talk through. I only watched the episode once, but I thought they did a good job of it. But I was a little confused after the first watch of when Lori was really in on everything, and when she knew that her, that her son, his actions led to the death of his cousin. But I just, like I said, I thought it was great. I thought I mean, let's keep it a buck. From episode 5 with the Wayne Potts guy, I think, the kidnapper. I mean, the show really delivered like the big climax 2 episodes ago. So to come back 2 episodes later, the show's still riding pretty high. Everybody's still being fully engaged and whatnot. I thought they did an excellent job of giving us a couple of more, loops or whatever they call them things on the roller coaster. I thought it was a great job. We also notice here, as we start going down this path and the case is pointing towards Ryan, that John wasn't fully to blame for this thing. We see Mare having that breakthrough. We see that when she was at that pizza joint that I mentioned earlier, she wasn't drinking beer. She was drinking water. She went to it would look like she continued having the therapy sessions, even though it wasn't, a part of her chief's orders anymore that she go to those. She was actually trying to help herself. We see some thawing in the ice. Her relationship with Kate or Faye was better. We have the talk between her and Carrie when Carrie goes in there and says, I started using again. I can't take my son. And she was like, I know you're happy about that. And she was like, I don't have to kick you when you're down. I am happy that we get to keep Drew, but I really want you to go help yourself and get the help that you need. Because I do know that you love your son. So we see Mare growing. Like I said, she has the heart-to-heart talk there in front of her mom. I mean, with her mom in front of Siobhan. She's on board with Siobhan going out to California. The whole family came together to send her off and whatnot. And she's I just thought that part of it gave a lot of closure to a lot of open items that were out there or loose ends that needed to be tied off. Another note that I had, I just kind of touched on that family baggage. The Sheehan's had their stuff going on. Obviously, the show concluded with an empty house except for Drew and Helen, Mare's mom. And then she wakes up and she goes out in the hall and goes up into the attic and faces that moment that had really closed off the last couple years of her life, not really dealing with that. And that's obvious. I mean, people are going to have to deal with a situation like that on their own time. But she had just told her, we had just saw her tell Lori, all of this stuff that went on in your life, or went on in your family, John's infidelity, Ryan doing his thing, and how all of this stuff spiraled out of control. Like, this stuff isn't your fault. You didn't do it. Helen had to tell Mare, about her father killing himself. So there's a lot of people letting other people off the hook, so to speak. The Rosses obviously had a myriad of things going on, with the relationship between John and Billy. It was crazy that Billy was even considering taking the fall for all of this. And I think opening up in the opening scene, I don't think John was really going to kill. Again, I think that was the writing kind of throwing twists and playing with us. But I don't think he was going to kill his brother. He knew the shit was his fault. He created it. And I think he was just mulling over. I think he was coming to grips with the fact that he was going to have to go down for this. And then dealing with everything that he set in motion. He has this infant child out there. Like, all of these last couple years, where you can see when he was talking about his relationship with Aaron. you know, that they could confide in one another, and that was very sickening and weird and twisted and all of that. But you know, people get there. You know, that it does happen. I said also like you know, Don and Katie. You know, they were reunited. Katie gets that apartment or house or whatever that Beth was there to help give her. Drew's mother, I think, did a very responsible thing in not taking her son just because she wanted him. She understood that she was a threat to him and herself, and you know, was going back to the facility to get some help and whatnot. Um, I thought they did an excellent job in closing and tying off all of these loose ends. Um, Next thing, great performances. I really liked I liked Frank. You know, I thought his character was excellent. Um, Being the head of the house when he was with Mayor, then moving on, and then trying to, you know, go into this new relationship. He's also a teacher. I like teachers, so that stood out to me. But he was just a very steadying presence in the midst of all of this stuff. Um, Everybody really. I mean, Helen was great. Obviously, Mayor. I thought everybody had a great performance, to be honest. One quick note on Guy Pearce. From what I understand, and looking at another and reading something else, like he really wasn't supposed to be in the show. Another actor that was supposed to play Richard had a scheduling conflict or something, and Guy Pearce came in, you know, last minute or whatever. So I know some of us had him on our list as a suspect. Like, why is he? It's got to be a reason why he's here, besides just this little spot duty of showing up as a mayor's love interest here and there. So he really wasn't going to be in the show when it was originally planned. And then Lori Julianne Nicholson. She had a great. I've seen her in other stuff. I don't remember anything. Nothing really comes to mind in particular. But she had a great 7 episodes. And then my last thing, I wouldn't even really call these negatives, but with everything, there's going to be some shortcomings, right? There's going to be a couple things that you know, we gotta have some criticism in there. I really wouldn't even put this as criticism though, because I thought they filled out all 7 episodes as much as they could be. I really think they nailed everything. The only thing, we never saw Annie again. She actually did ghost Siobhan, but I think her character played an important part. Like I said earlier, sometimes we don't seek out help, and then when we do, we don't always accept the help. And I think Siobhan had a bright future, and maybe her being with the girl who was all into drugs and irresponsible and whatnot, Annie's presence showed Siobhan like a better relationship, a healthier relationship, someone more mature, someone with goals and whatnot, somebody that was able to look in her and expect more from her, and expect for her to maximize her gift or talent or whatever. And so and then Annie wasn't selfish enough to hold her back and keep her in Easttown, which I think that was what was bothering Mare. Part of what was bothering Mare was that she never left there and wanted her daughter to go out into the world. And so Anne, I think, served an important purpose of facilitating that, actually getting her to go. I thought we could have seen her though to something, or you know, she could have sent a note or a text, or I thought it could have been something, but that's the way they did it. We didn't get any understanding or explanation of what Ryan's sentence is. You know, Lori tried to argue that it was an accident. He didn't even know how to hold a gun. I don't know if I buy that because they were kind of outdoorsmen. They didn't show John with any weapon. Well, he did know how to. He knew how to use a gun. It's very in this part of the country, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and all that stuff. It's very unusual that an outdoorsman type father isn't taking his son shooting and all of that hunting and all of that type of stuff, especially as much as they fished. But maybe they were fishers and not hunters. I don't know. But I thought they took the easy way out on that because a lot of us understood what Ryan was trying to do. He went about it horribly. He said he was just trying to scare Aaron. Things went awry, and he ends up shooting her. But was he just gonna be locked up until he was 18? At least give us what this. I don't think they really even shared what the sentence. You know what the not the sentence, but what the conviction was or whatever. And then also, I think a major thing that we didn't see play out on screen was Kenny being told about or who Aaron's killer was, and that his cousins were involved in this, and his one cousin was sleeping, fathered a child, a son with his daughter. That's pretty big for him not to get that. And this man went out and shot another man in cold blood, So this shows kind of how reckless we can be with trying to handle things our own way and whatnot. But I think those were two pretty big details that didn't get addressed. And it's like they didn't want to put any labels on anybody or I don't know, like morally, where are you with this? Now, the funny thing is I'm a huge fan of Chicago PD. And on there they had the character Sergeant Voight, Hank Voight. And this was a wild season for Chicago PD because they dealt with a lot of the social justice stuff, Black Lives Matter, policing policy, and yada, yada, yada. And they dealt with some of it. And then in the end of the show, at the end of this season, Voight was hiding. He's actually burning up a body of a perp that they killed. And it was a clean shoot, but they had done some things procedurally that they would have had to answer a lot of questions, and Voight made the body disappear versus doing all the paperwork on it. I'm rambling on right now because Voight would have looked at this situation and made the decision that Ryan just got mixed up in something that he didn't need to have his whole life affected by, and he probably would have stayed quiet on this thing. But part of the situation, the transformation that we see going on with Mayor and trying to walk in a different light and whatnot, or a different perspective and outlook on life, she didn't want to do the wrong thing. So while she didn't enjoy where the evidence and the investigation led her, she made up her mind that the person who actually did this has the answer for this, even if it is her 13-year-old, her best friend's 13-year-old son. And so that just completely tears this family apart. And maybe it was a little unrealistic that in just a couple of months that passed by. Hey, what's going on, Bruin Walker from Los Angeles? Happy Memorial Day. I'm getting ready to get on off of here, but thanks for checking in. But yeah, maybe it was a little unrealistic that her and Lori kind of reconciled, that quickly, but some months did transpire. Exactly. Exactly. I just missed that too. I was just talking about, that's what I was closing with was my last 3 or 4 things of the major details that I think they did drop the ball. Yeah, they didn't charge Lori with the obstruction, and I guess it was like, damn, somebody has to be left behind to take care of the kids. So I think that's where they did make some exceptions. What was the name? I saw it on the when they showed the on the computer screen in the examination room. I just forget. Dylan John McMenamin. Ah, that's what DJ was. I thought DJ was Dylan Jr. Yeah, I thought DJ was Dylan Jr. That's interesting. Yeah, good catch. But yeah, you know, like I said, my man on Chicago PD, he would have made this whole thing go away. Yeah, Dylan knew. Because Dylan said, he did say, here goes the money from his real mother. Maybe in a backhanded way, he was saying, since we know who the real father is, or maybe that was a hint that he knew who the real father was. But I thought he already knew anyway. He knew from the get-go. They didn't ever really talk about that. But he had to have known. They didn't really talk about what the nature of their relationship was. As much as he disliked Aaron, who knows, you know, because the birth certificate. I don't remember anything about a birth certificate. What episode was that? Let me, if you don't mind, remind me what episode that was dealt with then. But yeah, other than that though, I mean, I've been on here for 30 minutes. You know, thanks for just joining in. I was getting ready to wrap up and get off of here. I kind of talked through everything that I had to say on it. Like I said, man, I thought it was a really good show. I thought it was well done. I didn't think it was dealt with. You talking about the birth certificate? Or the whole, why did Dylan put a gun to? Yeah, I talked about that earlier. That they kind of I think there was a couple of instances in the show where they were trying to mislead us to make it drama or suspenseful, and there were just a couple of things that they did that ultimately they didn't really add up. And that was one of them, whatever, and I just kind of finished talking about that a few minutes ago, was Dylan and his dude, I think his name was Sean. They were riding around terrorizing Jessica and whatnot. And then even burning the journals doesn't make sense now. What did you burn the journals for when you weren't even involved with the to go break into the crime scene and then to go burn the memory, I mean, to just completely erase the memory of Aaron. You would have thought those would have been great. Those would have been great to have preserved for DJ when he was, a teenager or something. So that didn't make sense, burning, for them to go in there and burn up the journals, and then for them to be harassing and threatening Jessica the way that they did. Like I said, there were a couple of things where the writers tried to lead us in different directions and give us different stuff to look at to make it suspenseful. But by the time that we get to the finale, that really didn't even have nothing to do with, you can't be perfect. They can't be perfect. But I think I think they checked a lot of boxes. I'm just looking at Aaron's dad is going to kill you in the car, and Dylan doesn't say, "Hey, I'm not the father." That's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. I forgot all about that dialogue on the way for him to be shot and whatnot. But I'm seeing on IMDb, it's at 8.6 out of 10 on IMDb.com, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, man, I thought it was a really good show. I also liked, I think it's been the best one since Sharp Objects with Amy Adams. I don't know if that was 3 years ago now or whatever. It might have even been a little better than Sharp Objects. Sharp Objects kind of has some lulls in there. Great reveal on Sharp Objects, but there were parts of Sharp Objects that dragged a little bit. I think with the inclusion of all of the different characters that we learned in East Town, I thought they did a great job of spending time on those different storylines. Freddie and Beth, Don and Katie, the Ross brothers were actually, very important or central to the story. It was a lot of I thought they did a good job. I mean, with the exception of whatever the sentence was for Ryan, and then the fact that they didn't show us Kenny being told about his cousin's involvement in the death of Aaron. I think those were crucial details that we should have seen. I do think that. But anyway, I'm just kind of rambling on for no good reason now. I don't have much more value to add to the show other than everything that I've just said. I do think that we don't always get a lot of art, a lot of projects that really speak to us and encourage us or show us good examples of some things. But I think they did show us quite a bit here without really being preachy, and without really, you need to do better with your life. You need to work on yourself. It didn't really do all of that. But I just think I was gonna say this earlier. As a society right now, we do a whole lot of shit on Instagram and Facebook. We post all these memes about quotes and self-help shit and self-encouragement. And we don't even a lot of people go to church and never use any of this stuff. You go out and put some really thoughtful quote on your Instagram page, and you want a bunch of likes and people to comment on it. But a lot of times we don't apply this stuff to our living. We don't get the benefit of we don't execute this in our own lives. And I think looking at Mare overcome the stuff that she overcame in the series, like I said, forgiveness, grace, taking a moment to really work on yourself and not to allow the things that you struggle with, not to pass that down to others. These are very important lessons and messages that were in this show if people choose to take notice of it. Again, the majority of us probably just was like it was a good show. But I did learn some things from Mare. And I thought it's great that the director and the creator took the time to try to drive home these points. And that's that. Let me get on out of here. Hey, it's Pay Me No Mind Sports and Entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Like I said, that's a quote right there from somebody. I say it at the end of every video, and I actually try to live it out with all of the different stuff that I do. That's neither here nor there. Hey, enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully you're off today. We just had this lady. We get this weekly or bi-weekly service at our house, and this young lady showed up today to do it, and I'm like, damn, you got to work today? That's pretty bad. But it's rough out here. Anyway, I'm out. Peace.